Although the days are daunting, I try my best to let the light in. Rainbow color kites hangs. They sing songs, ingratiating my senses to the open cracks. They lead to the silver lining. They glory, the glory. They would carry my weight for days, the boulders, the crooked, bad breathing shoulders. And so I would remain calm, enlightened, smile on electric, like a light bill. Hello, everyone. Welcome back to Po3tryJournal Podcast. As you know, I am your host, Alex Murdoch. And if you've been paying attention to the episodes, you probably realized we missed last week's episode. I want to apologize to everybody that's
It's 17 hours.
Well, that's interesting. To the consistent listeners, just had a few things I had to figure out pertaining to the organizing, and I really wanted to kind of evolve the show. It's been consistent for long enough, so I thought, you know what, I really want to evolve the show and just change a few things and add a few things, enhancements, which leads me to, of course, you can see there's somebody, if you're watching the actual video today. And this is a close friend of mine, and I really think, and I've invited her to be the co-host of the show, and I think we have a great dynamic, and I think she would add so much more to the questions and the answers and everything else. So I want you to welcome Jay Taylor to the show.
Thank you.
I wish I had one of those buttons, you know,
That's what I was thinking when he said that. I was waiting for that button.
But of course, I know from the top, from off the top, I'd have to say that, you know, you're quite modest in what you're about, in terms of like very, very intelligent, very cerebral person. And I think the other thing is, like, you're very artistic in your own way. And you remind me of myself a lot in terms of, like, you see art as like a hobby, or like something that you enjoy to do to keep your mind at ease, or to enjoy, you know what I mean? Just enjoying your own it's a personal thing for you.
Yeah.
And I think that's usually where it starts for a lot of people. And if you might, there's only a few that, you know what, decided, you know what, I really want to do this for real as a profession. And so that's when you decided, that's when you make that decision where, like, you not only want to do it for yourself, but you want to do it for other people as well. And I think that's where we're at with myself, but hopefully one day you might get there, you know? But then what are you telling people about yourself? Anything that you thought are relevant that they might want to know? Voice.
I mean, I suppose, like you said, I'm a creative type in general, so just anything that involves creation, music, sculpting, baking, jewelry making, painting, dancing, a bit of everything. So that's how I kind of spend most of my days where I'm not working, and where I am working is now trying to sort of bring that creativity into something that's going to bring in some money. So
yeah, and even that's art in itself. If you think about it, you know.
it's a form, I suppose. It's
Yeah.
creative. It's nails, and it's for me doing nails is like having tiny canvases.
Yeah.
So yeah, I suppose in a way it is kind of like art-esque. It feels
It is.
like art.
It is. It is
Feels like
art
art.
to me,
Yeah.
of course. And you
So,
do. I believe you do your own designs as well. You have certain designs that you do you do actually create yourself.
yes, I suppose you could say that. Yeah, I mean, anything, the same as you said, when we're creating something, it doesn't really come from any kind of thought process. It's usually more of a bodily, ugh, it sounds horrible, bodily function, but it is. It comes from your body and your hands or your legs or whatever it is you're using to create your
Yeah.
art that it does it by itself. So yeah, so when I'm doing my designs and things, it's just sort of flowing with the brush and just kind of going, all right, this is where we go in. Okay, we're doing this. Okay.
Yeah.
So
Again, you know, when we talk about well, you know, what fuel your art, and again, I feel like, you know, maybe that's where you still come from, that same similar place as myself, where it's almost like it's all based on your experience and what you're going through at that time,
yeah, for
you
sure.
know, that kind of thing. So that's interesting. But as we say, you know, there's a certain thing with art that's universal, and I'm sure we can always. That's the fact that always makes us relate to different
Yeah.
people. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Different artists, different places, but you know, similar lingo in a sense.
Absolutely, because it does all come from sort of the same place in a way. I'm sure if we were to look at it, maybe psychologically there is a creative part of the mind, but in general, without taking it that far, most artists can kind of relate on just the basic level, whether it's their
Mm,
process, what they use their art for, or what kind of mood they have to be in to create a certain thing, the best hours to start creating, worse hours, whether or not they need enhancements of sorts to create. And
yeah,
yeah, I feel like everyone, music, writing, dancing, anything creative, I think everyone
yeah,
can kind of find that same thing that they connect with.
totally, totally. Okay, let me get back to this quote now. I want to go through it one more time. It says, although the days are daunting, I try my best to let the light in. Rainbow colored kites, hangs, they sing songs, ingratiate my senses to the open. To open the cracks, they lead to the silver lining, the glow ray. They would carry my weight for days, the boulders, the crooked, bad breathing shoulders. And so I would remain calm, enlightened, smile on electric, like a light though. And the pivotal thing that, you know, was what inspired me to kind of just write something like this. It was just more of a thing of like just thinking of how much, just kind of like accumulating the overall summary of the past year and just being like, you know what, there's been a lot of experience of just like tumultuous or like convoluted, misty, cloudy days more than light and just like, you know, chilled. And I think, you know, like I said, you know, my writing is my experience. And so I feel like a lot of what I write kind of just reflect that. But, you know, the fact that I can think about that in itself means that, you know, I'm open to a different. And so, you know, it kind of inspired me to kind of just like, you know what, let me write something a bit more lighter for once.
Yeah.
I'm sure I think we had a conversation about this as well. It's almost like,
Yeah.
man, like,
You got any light ones?
it's almost like the Dark Knight, you go.
Even the light ones were still kind of dark. So
the light ones are still kind of dark.
yeah.
So it's kind of like, you know what? Let me take a step back and just kind of appreciate life from a different angle, different perspective. You know, and almost, you know, also brings it into play, like a sense of nostalgia. You know, almost thinking about times when things were so much simpler, when you were like perhaps more of a younger person, where, you know, being grown is not such a thing. You know, you can just go about and just live your everyday life, lighthead. You know, they have this phrase, "This is young and dumb." You know what I mean? It's just like one of those things, because you know any better, you don't know any better, and it's just like it's still good. You know, and I think that's where I was coming from with it. It's almost like, you know what? When I think about this, it's just like, yeah, it ain't that deep, man. You know what I mean? It's just like
perspective.
Yeah, just smile for a while, just, you know, chill and appreciate life. As opposed to always trying to figure things out, or, you know, allowing your situation, no matter how daunting it is, to kind of bring you down, or shed a light over you that changes your perspective in a from being optimistic almost. So I think that's where I was coming from with the whole quote, to be honest. What's your opinion on that? What do you think of it?
I'm thinking about, you know, what you said as far as being young and dumb, and ignorance is bliss, and this kind of sort of, I don't know, the version of ourselves that we get to be before we step into life, essentially. And that's what it is. You know, your perspective is so different when you're younger, and, well, you know, this is assuming you've got an easygoing life. You know, you're not living, you know, some horrible traumatic version of life as a child. But, you know, for those of us who didn't really have those kind of struggles, life is fairly easygoing, and you don't really feel the next day. You don't feel, you know, next week or next month, because your concept of time is so small as well. And I think as we get older, you kind of lose track of that mentality. You know, time becomes a factor in everything, because time becomes money, time becomes deadlines, it becomes stress, it becomes a countdown to death. It becomes a countdown to I don't know, my eggs are dying for women, and for some people a countdown to I'm gonna be alone forever, or whatever it is. You know, I'm up for promotion, and, you know, the older I get, the less likely they are to choose me, or whatever it is. You know, we all lose sight of that as we get older. So yeah, it's funny you talk about that in terms of nostalgia. Even as you were saying the quote, I sort of remembered I used to have this box. It was a shoebox I had under my bed, and I would put sweets in it. Okay, sounds weird.
Yeah, big baby. I think I said that to you.
Listen, it's not as bad as it sounds. So every Friday after school, my mum would take me and my brother to, like, the newsagents, and we'd be allowed to pick a magazine and to pick some sweets. And I don't know, but that was the best thing in the world. Like, that was it. Life was complete every Friday, and even though it happened every Friday, I didn't notice that pattern as a child until I was older, and you look back on it retrospectively. As a child, it just happens, and you just take it for what it is, and then you just enjoy it for what it is. As adults, you know, you can know that you're going to have, I don't know, let's say you choose to take your annual leave every Monday for 6 weeks. You can know for what you've got those Mondays coming, and instead of enjoying that fact, or just enjoying them as they come, we're panicking, going, right, so who can I see on that Monday? Okay, so if I book my appointment for this day and that, and we try and squeeze it all in, because we know, you know, we can't do it on the days that we're working. And so instead of just enjoying these things that we know we've got coming, you know, you book a holiday, and instead of enjoying, oh, I've got a holiday coming, you're thinking, right, I need to get this, that. The day before, you're panicked, you're running around Superdrug trying to pick up your little travel items. And it's just funny, because that's what that sort of reminded me of, as you know, there was a line there, something to do with light, something. But,
I think it was smile on electric like a light bill.
Right. And I think that's where it kind of, I don't know, for some reason that line in particular for me right back to basically the box of sweets was me separating the sweets that I had every Friday, taking one from the bag, putting it in that box and trying to make it last just that little bit longer by storing these little things. Yeah, that's what that reminded me of, and it was very nostalgic. But yeah, you know, on a bigger scheme, on a bigger level, we don't really appreciate how, I don't know, it's like our minds were so much more absorbent than in terms of, you know, in a good sense and a bad sense, because obviously bad things will happen, it kind of soaks in, and that's how you end up in therapy in your 30s. But the good things, we just sort of let them come, and we wouldn't push them away, we wouldn't run from them, you know, you wouldn't fear them and get apprehensive and anxious at the thought of, okay, something good's coming, so I need to prepare for it. It's like, which is a good thing. You know, you just know it's coming and you just get excited that it's coming. As an adult, good things always come with stress.
Yes, it always. You know, there's always a price. There's always a side note. You got me. Everything that you get is just like, all right, how much? What's this gonna cost me? Like, am I getting this for free? All right, what do you want down the line? Like, in a year's time, are you gonna come knocking at my door? Like,
what else is there? What's the terms and conditions? What are we doing here? Yeah, and that is perspective, like you said. That all comes down to perspective, because things technically they haven't really changed.
No, not really. No.
Your mindset changes as you get older, and I guess you get jaded. You stop just being able to enjoy.
Yeah, like there's so many factors, so many things you have to kind of think about, you know, as a grown person, that, you know, you're not even privy to as a child. You know, you're hidden from all that nonsense when you're a child. I mean, not all of us, but, you know, for the most part.
For the most part,
you know, we tend to get away with a lot in terms of like the stresses of life when you're young. And so sometimes, I guess maybe that's why it's always the easiest way to find that lightness, you know, when it comes to life, that silver lining, where you can look back and be like, oh man, you remember when you fell out them tree? Like, do you get what I mean?
It's awful not of the tree.
Like, you know, even was, I remember you broke your leg. It's just like, even the most
good times.
Yeah, even the most simplest task, right? Or the simplest like shit that happened to you is almost like you were young, so it just belittles the whole situation that you were in.
Yeah. But you know what? There's also, maybe there's that time aspect with that, because, you know, time heals everything, but also time changes perspectives. And the older you get, you look back at situations. In the moment, you could be going through hell, and 10 years later, or even a year later, you're looking back like, man, I can't believe I went through that. Man, you know what? That wasn't that bad. You know, you kind of, it morphs in your head a little bit, because it becomes this distant memory. And emotion isn't attached to it in the same way it was on the day it happened. And I think it's the same thing, you know, with childhood. Obviously, when it's trauma and those kind of things, that's slightly different. But as you said, you drop out of the tree as a child. You know, at the time, you're bawling, you run to mum, you're in trouble. Why were you in a tree?
Yeah, you might have a few bogus.
You do all of that, but then you look back on it and you're like, I should have climbed some more trees.
Oh, yes, Dad. Yes.
Do you know what I mean? Hindsight is a hell of a thing, but it also, it can work with you sometimes, because just, you know, perspective is everything.
It's interesting. So that was the gist of it, basically. I think you kind of got the idea that I was trying to portray. So that's really good. All right. Now for my second quote. Bear with me. This one's a little bit longer. All right, here we go. Creed and culture. Through the lens of a vulture, you only exist at my decree. Stealing spree, a blessing only it was pertaining to artistry. Landmines brought on through the absence of spine. a groundswell, if only to witness the truth, if only a single time. But no such chimes. We live in a world of following rules and uniform lines, crooked crimes. Yes, ignorance, so sublime. For we know not, futility is in the vicinity, feasting in the amenities of the lively versatility. The crushing blows of destiny, controlled by the numbers that means no good for me. They lay landmines, open for the onset of slides, the cruel tides, the decrepit and tired. And that was a mic drop. But yeah, this one is quite a flip of a coin with this one. But I try and remain objective with this one, and I'll explain it through. I did a little bit of research behind it, and I'll start with this one. So apparently, Princess Elizabeth, that just died, Elizabeth II, she came to power in 1952. Funny enough, at the time when she came to power, she was actually in Kenya, Nairobi at the time, which is interesting. And that's when she found out her father passed away. Mm-hmm. So I think that the way they phrased it was, she slept as a princess and woke up as a queen.
Jesus. Okay.
Yeah. Which led me to the next thing I researched, which was she has, you know, one of the countries that's part of the empire is Kenya. Mm. I'm not sure if you're aware of the I hope I'm pronouncing this correctly, the Mama Uprising. I think it started off just like, you know what, kind of like clash between two forces in Kenya, both, but it was more fighting for leadership prior to the British exiting Kenya, you know. But at the time when this kicked off, they technically haven't left Kenya at the time. And so when everything started to go left, you know, of course, they were involved. I don't really want to, it's there's a lot that went down, but I think I'm just going to go to the main gist of it. For the most part, it seems to me, the main enemies, one sec. Yes, just a quick pause, folks. Had to check geo technicals. But I was getting to the main point of what I wanted to say. The result of the conflict at the time, it resulted in 90,000 Kenyans executed, tortured, or maimed. On top of that, 160,000 were detained in poor conditions. Okay. The other thing I wanted to mention was the other part of my research. Coming to you like Inspector Morse today, mate. It was about June, the youth uprising in in South Africa. I'll explain what I mean. So basically, it was 1953. It was Bantu Education Act came into play, and Bantu, you know, at the time it was seen as a derogatory term used for, as they put it at the time, non-whites. And so, but as a result of it, the act itself, it's kind of like it dictates, you know, the right to vote, where you go to school, a lot of the basic rights that you have. This is for that. But because of that causes a rise of Black consciousness movement in the youth, and which led to, I think it was 1976. It was basically between 3,000 and 10,000 students mobilized in a South African students movement. Of course, you know, this is a reactionary situation. So as a result of that, there was, I don't really want to speak too much of it because we only got so much time, but we'll just speak about the aftermath. So the aftermath of the events of June 16, 1976, just trying to find, but basically from what I read, it was tear gas, severe atrocities basically, and they began with, you know, tear gas and all that kind of stuff, but then it led to actual bullets, like armed shootings. Do you get what I mean? Like, to the point where it's almost like, I think the international society just had, like, there was a groundswell there as well because of it. Do you get what I mean? So basically what I'm saying is a lot of people was hurt during that time. And these are all British colonies. Do you get what I mean? I guess, which brings me back to the point of what the piece really, what inspired the piece. The death of the Queen and everything that came with that. You know, I've noticed a lot of people, like I said, I'm being objective, and I feel like, I think personally that no death is nothing to be happy about. Do you get what I mean? So let's just get out of the way. We're not trying to be petty. We're just trying to, you know, just trying to weigh up the facts of the matter. Of course, we can say that one of the main things that we know about the Queen is that, you know, she's revered for being such a person of duty, and she's always held in high esteem because of the way she, you know, she led and she carried herself. And she always put her duties first. Do you get what I mean? And I think that's something to respect for sure. And I think, respect to the family as you would anybody, you know?
Yeah.
And to an extent, the people are always going to feel it. And when we say people, we're talking about just in general, because I think, certain people, a lot of people they were not only a fan, but the family was revered for just being that person that almost like symbolic. Do you get what I mean? Because it's not so much about the power anymore when it comes to the monarchy. It's more about influence.
Yeah.
I think that's part of it. Do you get what I mean? So,
yeah.
But if you were to ask me, am I sad? Am I in remorse of her death? Then I would say no. I'm not happy about it, but at the same time, it doesn't impact me in that way. So, but at the same time, it did have me watching, and because at the end of the day, I say all this to say, and I speak about, and I mentioned everything I've mentioned so far, just to say that, it wasn't all guns and roses. There's a lot of atrocities, and we only spoke about a small, minute amount of it. Just 2 examples.
Yeah.
Like, this thing runs deep. You know what I mean? This rabbit hole can keep going for a long time.
Absolutely. Yeah.
So I just wanna put that there. But at the end of the day, I was like, respectfully, no. It's nothing for me to be sad about. But yeah, like, so with everything I've mentioned so far, and I'm sure you have your own knowledge on the whole situation. Like, what's your take on it?
So I suppose it's a very complex one, because, as you said, it's never something. No one's ever going to celebrate death in that way, and I don't know why anyone would look at it and go, "Oh my God, yes, she's dead" or something. That's, as you said, it's petty. It doesn't make sense.
Yeah.
And yeah, it's sad in a general kind of, someone's died, someone that, let's say, we all know of,
Yeah.
kind of like when a celebrity dies, it's kind of like, oh no, okay. I feel for the family. I feel for the people who knew her and the people who she impacted closely.
Yeah.
I feel bad for them. But then, I suppose when it comes to an individual level, I'd have to agree. I don't feel particularly moved by her passing, and not because I dislike her. I've actually never really had any sort of feelings about her. I'd say I've probably had more feelings about the grandchildren than the actual Queen. And yeah, she's been noted for the many different things that she's done during her time. But I suppose what you're sort of highlighting, and I think maybe the thing that a lot of people miss, are the many horrors that happened during her time, essentially on her watch. Areas that were technically under her, she was their monarch too, technically speaking.
Yeah, supposedly, yeah.
Yeah, there were a lot of things that happened in those 70 years, in varying levels of atrocity, and we can't really ignore that fact.
Can't ignore.
It's unfortunate because, for some reason, and I say for some reason, and I suppose it's going to sound a bit awkward for some people, but for some reason, the Queen has this kind of untouchable, I don't know, this air around her. People refuse to critique her. And I know there have been people who have. I know that people have noted, oh, she had a bad temper when she was in her 20s. Who didn't? But in general, I think in terms of her leadership and the things that she's done, for some reason people fail to note, let's say, certain failings or areas that have been overlooked. And the thing is, that seems to be consistent with the royal family in general. We've seen it where they've done their tours, they get to certain countries and are not welcomed, and they're confused. And it's kind of like, well, you shouldn't be confused if you know the history of the country you just stepped into. What happened? And as people have said, oh, it wasn't the Queen who, the Queen wasn't the one who started slavery, or I don't know, the Prince was the one who did this. Or it's like, you don't have to be active in the destruction to be part of the destruction, by association. It's unfortunate for them, because as soon as you're born into that family, you're immediately benefiting off of let's say, pain and torment. But the only way to step outside of that and to not be now held accountable is to do something actively in the right direction to make amends for that history, because you are benefiting from it,
Yes. Yeah, you are.
That's the thing that maybe rubs me and some other people the wrong way when it comes to sort of revering the royal family and the Queen, is sort of, I don't know, it's sort of tunnel vision, selective hearing, selective vision when it comes to, okay, so yes, she's been great in not being actively destructive, but has she been active in making repairs? Has she been active in fixing some of the horrors of the past? Has she done anything active? Apologies aren't active, they're passive, and wishing people well and expressing remorse and remembering such and such on such day. It's all very passive PR in a way. Anyone can do that, anyone in power. We see all the time when there are these scandals, they put out a statement, a blank statement, and it's, oh, we express our apologies for, and where's the sincerity? Do something. Show us you've actually shown up. And I think, I'm saying this as a Black British citizen, and I know that for me it's a conflicting feeling to have anyway, just because, well, technically, on a very technical level, she was my queen too, but as a Black person, she was never really my queen. As a British person, she was my monarch, but as a Black person, has she ever done anything for people of colour? No, the only thing that she's done is to not do. She's been, it's the act of omission that somehow she's rewarded for. And it's like, well, again, just because you don't dunk someone's head in the pool of water,
pretty much.
That's something that we're supposed to applaud you for. That's a given. You're not supposed to do that. And then even worse, sorry.
No, I agree. I was basically just trying to say, like, it's almost like, they have these participation awards where someone gets reward for not physically, or you know what I mean.
Yeah.
But at the same time, you come on now.
It's almost like an award by association. And again, I'm not saying that she's done nothing, but as far as, essentially when they do compare her in the history, when they compare her in terms of the leaders that they've had over the years, unfortunately, because she ran for so long, it means that everyone that came before her essentially was active in causing problems across the world. So you're comparing, it's almost like comparing, I don't know, it's like you've got terrorists and then their grandchildren and saying, oh, but you look like your granddaddy, so good job. And it's, but
So that begs a question then. Do you feel like maybe it's a situation where maybe it's because she wasn't, she ruled for a long time, but she wasn't actively just throwing her weight about like a lot of her predecessors in terms of like the heirs before her? Do you get what I mean?
I do think that's a lot.
Could it be a thing where maybe where she was just so passive, everybody feels like, you know what, she can't do any wrong, mate. Do you get what I mean?
She can't do any wrong if you literally don't do anything. You automatically win by default by remaining neutral, which is what she's done. Politically, I guess the monarchy have to stay neutral anyway. even though, we've seen them kind of slip up every now and then and kind of hint towards certain sides, but essentially her job is to stay neutral in all elements and to stay passive in all areas, and that way no one can ever say you've done anything wrong because you've not done anything, and no one can say you've done anything right because you've not done anything. So you fall into a category of just, I don't know, it's just kind of like, well, like a kid in school who gets straight C's. Because you're not really on anyone's. No one's looking for you to mess up because they don't expect you to mess up.
No
one's watching you to do amazing.
You just fit in. You just fit in.
And it's a strange thing because this is the problem with having a monarchy that is just figurative. Because let's face it, there are other countries where the monarchy actually have power.
That's right.
Ones where they are, figureheads.
Figureheads, yeah.
So it's difficult then to sort of measure the Queen up against other royalty across the world and go, oh, well, compared to these guys, she didn't do that. It's like, yes, but she didn't have the power to do some of those things. She can influence, she can hint towards things and push, politics in certain directions, but even then it's only within a certain realm. So, giving her an award for not being her dad or not being her aunt or her grandmother or her this or her that, it's a very low bar to hold up.
That's right.
Wow, this is amazing. Especially when you compare it to how other leaders of the world are hung, drawn, and quartered for doing
active.
Right.
Yeah,
it's so like I said, as a Black British person, it was a conflicting thing. I saw clips of the funeral this morning and it made me sad just because it's a funeral. It's sad, and you're looking at the children, her children, the king, and her daughter, her own daughter, and I'm looking at you can see the grief, when all is said and done, that's their mum, and you can see it on the grandchildren. And I think it was William or Harry, one of them said, walking behind the coffin reminded them of their mum's funeral, which again, it's kind of like, that's all very sad.
That's it.
And there are times where there's been a lot of pomp and circumstances last few days since the death, and this family have had to be very public in their grief. So many different experiences. They've had to stand there and so when I look at the royal family, I think in terms of duty to your country, let's say, or in terms of being a certain, I don't know, something that people are supposed to look up to, I can understand why other members of this country may look at the royal family, look at the Queen's death, and feel grief, I guess. But I think for those of us who, this isn't our origin country, it's a country that hasn't been the most embracing to people of color. I would agree with that. It's a country that hasn't upheld certain levels of human rights.
That's the thing. Human rights, comes. It plays a big part in this whole thing in terms of like, when you think about when you're trying to reflect on them, it's like, what's your impact? What's your legacy? Do you get what I mean? It's just like, man, it's been a bloody one when it comes to the British Empire.
Yeah, it's kind of
what we're speaking about. But I'll mention this because I love to hear your thoughts on it. The other thing that was confusing to me was Jamaica and the 12 days of mourning. And I was just like to myself, it doesn't equate to me. Do you get what I mean? I really try and it's like, how?
Does not compute. Or really, I think the only way to sum that up is that's an absolute piss take. Like, are you taking the piss?
You know what? Yeah, even to think about, if you're trying to put it technical, like what could cause something like this? To say Stockholm syndrome is almost like a slap in the face in a sense, because I'm just like, come on, man, we should be way past this. Do you get what I mean?
And this is one of the other things that again makes it so difficult to feel, real, let's say, grief for the passing of the Queen, because again, it's like, well, there are so many unfinished, I don't know what to call them. It's just like this list of problems in the
Yes.
with the management of the Commonwealth, the management of releasing countries. I say releasing, but the countries are gaining independence.
Yeah.
Independence. And then, when you look at Jamaica, and especially when you look at, we could even look at the recent history between Britain and Jamaica, as far as, was it a couple of years ago where they were sending back the Windrush generation?
Yeah.
Like that, how
that's so outlandish. It's so out there.
and that's
like, what?
That's now. That's not something. That's the kind of stories we read about in school, about history. Oh, people being kicked out of their country for this, that, and the other. We were all told that that's not something that happens in Britain. The kind of image that people like to portray is, not a racist country. It's not a country that would ever do something like that. But immediately, that would, and it's kind of like, again, how can you now?
It is ridiculous. It's just far gone. Like, to think something like that would happen in a country like this, when it's just it's a bit too much. I think it's a bit too much.
But have those two things happen within the space of 5 years, let's say, if we broaden it. So you've got the Queen dying, 12 days of mourning happening not long after people were being kicked out after having been asked to come and help by the Queen. It's a little bit insane to me. It's thinking, okay, so it's like you're asked to come in to build the school. The school's built. You start your education there, and then halfway through they kick you out and say, well, this isn't your school. But originally you were offered an education in the school if you help. And then after the principal dies, you're required to mourn for 12 days, despite having your rights stripped from you. And it's just like, are you taking the absolute living shit?
It's quite interesting.
I'm not here for it because I think that's the joke. It's a joke.
Yeah, it's quite interesting. And just looking at some of the dynamics I see, when a family comes out and they're having this almost like individual one-to-one with different people that's come to pay their respects. And I heard something, I thought, I was like, that's quite interesting. I'm not sure where the lady's from. She looked I would just describe it as a colored lady. Not black, but colored. Or should I say not African, but perhaps a mixture.
Woman of color.
Yes, a woman of color. She basically traveled. She basically traveled from America, I think it was, to show up at the palace.
Okay.
Basically, kind of pay her respects.
Yeah.
And I thought that was very interesting as well. It's like, wow,
Was she originally from here, or was she American?
I don't think she was. I think she's not from the UK. I think she was somewhere else. I can't be sure, but
I see that.
It just
tourism. That's why.
It was quite peculiar just to hear her speak about, she actually flew in and stuff like that. For the whole day and stuff like that. So it's quite interesting. But at the same time, after it, there is that context where it's almost like you understand certain people mourning, but I see somebody maybe perhaps in a similar position of myself, but they feel the opposite to the way I feel. And I feel like that's something that puts me in a place of like, you know, that's pretty confusing. I can't relate to it. Do you get what I mean? And that's so I think that's what brought me to inspired, what inspired me to write what I was writing about with this quote. And yeah, is one it was interesting, you know, just to think about everything as a whole and just the factors at play since the passing of, you know, Elizabeth II.
Very much. Yeah, no, I completely hear you, because I think it is a little bit confusing, you know, especially if I look at our generation. You know, most of us are second, maybe first, second, third gen. But yeah, talking to someone and then hearing them say that they're genuinely hurt by the past, really and truly upset by it, it is confusing, because the question is, unfortunately, why?
Yeah.
You know, and it sounds so cold to say, why are you upset?
Yeah.
But why are you upset? What are you losing? What is it exactly that you're losing? Or are you just, because again, like I said, if you're just generally sad for the passing of someone, you know, a figurehead, in the same way sad when a celebrity dies, or you're sad, you know, I feel like I was sadder when Betty White died. And Betty White was someone I enjoyed watching on screen as a child and all the rest of it. But as a child watching the Queen, I still felt a certain level of confusion as to why she was my queen when she's not my queen.
Yeah. And then what you think about it, that's a very childlike, well, very aware, but still a childlike thought to have. Do you get what I mean? At that stage of life. So it's kind of like, and you know, we know children are very honest. So, you know, that comes from an honest place, my point. You know what I mean?
It's a genuine question. It's why, who, what, and where. Why are we upset about this? What is there to actually be upset about besides feeling a general for the family?
There you go. But yes, I think we'll leave it there. It was quite an interesting one to finish with, I would say.
Very, very.
But Jade, thanks for stopping by and having a conversation. It was interesting indeed, and hopefully we can do this again sometime soon. I understand that you're busy as well and you have your own schedule to think about, so we'll do our best. And you know, again, I always say thanks for everyone to tuning in. Of course, you know, I have my things going on as well, working on a few things that's I'm gonna reveal to you in later dates. But of course, you know, Into the Abyss series volumes are available. I'm working on something a bit more cumulative pertaining to that for a few months to come. So I'll keep you posted on that as well. And Poetry Journal, Growing Pains, and the first Poetry Journal, DREAM.IMAGINE.EXPRESS is out as well. They're all my babies, and I would love for you to show them some love, you know? So, yeah, man, and keep me posted on your thoughts. We welcome disagreements also, so of course. But thanks everyone for tuning in. Jay, do you have anything you want to say? You want to share?
Can't think of anything off the top.
All right, we'll give you a week to think about that one. But all right, everyone. Thanks for tuning in, and till next time.